were strange fruits for Michael Francis and his mob associates. Boxing was a familiar staple, and he used it as more than just a gambling vehicle. Back in the early 80s, Francis says he worked with some high-profile figures in what he claims was an effort to make a healthy profit by funneling drug money through big-time boxing promotions. In the course of organizing these deals, Francis says he became involved with a high-profile man of both religion and politics. His identity may surprise you. It's part 2 of Bernard Goldberg's conclusion to the Michael Francis story.
When Michael Francis sent Davy Moore, his own fighter, off to the slaughter that night at the Garden, it might have been his biggest payday in the fight game, but it was far from his first. Francis says that he and the Colombo mob family had always made money in boxing, mainly through managing champions like Moore and Rocky Graziano. And in 1982, Francis saw his chance to make a real score in the sport. That's when he met a self-described Latin American drug dealer named Victor Quintana.
He made himself out to be a wealthy guy from South America who now wanted to get into the fight business and wanted to start promoting fights, but on a very high level.
And launder the drug money?
Yeah, he said it was
fight business?
The word I got was that it was drug money at one time. He was going to launder it through the fight business, yes.
Francis offered to bring Quintana to boxing's biggest promoter, Don King.
Victor at the time said, I want to do this on the highest level. And he suggested, actually, Don King, and that's who I would have suggested anyway.
Well, he's a big promoter, but did you have any reason to believe that he would get involved in something like this?
Yeah, I knew Don was a player. I knew he had relationships in Cleveland with family guys. And I had been in his company once or twice before that, so I mean, I knew he was a player.
A player meaning he was connected?
Yes.
And you thought he might be willing to launder money from a drug dealer?
Yes.
Who took you to meet Don King?
Al Sharpton.
The same Al Sharpton?
The same Al Sharpton. I was probably in Sharpton's presence, and I said, I have this guy that wants to meet with King to do some fight promotions. And Al said, oh, I'll set it up. Let me handle it. Let me get involved.
Francis says that both Sharpton and King knew that he was in the mafia and that Quintana was a reputed drug trafficker. Nonetheless, he says, the four men agreed in January 1983 to stage a major fight.
How do I phrase this? Did Don King, at any point, and Al Sharpton think that they were involved in an operation to launder drug money?
Yes, Bernie. The answer was yes. We'd go partners. We'd put up the money. Quintana would put up the money. And we'd all participate.
Don King denies Francis's charge that he plotted to launder money, an allegation that could not be independently corroborated, and claims there is no credible evidence linking him to the mob. Al Sharpton sat down with us to refute Francis's claims.
He and Don King and I certainly never sat down and discussed anything. And there is no remote way we discussed laundering any money, drug money or any other legitimate money.
But Victor Quintana, the self-described drug dealer, says Francis is telling the truth about Sharpton.
And Victor Quintana turned out to be?
Undercover FBI agent. I found that out several months later. He had been taping me for 7 or 8 months.
Quintana was part of an attempted FBI sting to root out corruption in boxing. And he wasn't just taping Michael Francis. He was also secretly taping the Reverend Al Sharpton. Real Sports has obtained a surveillance tape made by the FBI in 1983, but never seen before by the public. It shows Victor Quintana and Al Sharpton. The subject, a major cocaine sale. According to Quintana, Sharpton would get a cut of the drug deal, and they'd launder the rest through their boxing venture with Michael Francis.
So, what kind of time limit are we dealing with this?
Coke?
Yeah.
Couldn't be the end. It could be the end, but at the same time, I got my 4 million coming in April. In April, 6 weeks from now. Is that good time, you think?
Probably.
Now, I can get a pure Coke, you know, like 99 stuff, for about $35,000 a kilo. But I got to get You know, more than one.
Right.
You know, I mean, if we're going to do this thing.
No, you're talking about some real...
You know, I mean, 10 kilograms is like $350,000. That's a drop in the bucket. You know, we can go bigger.
Later, Quintana offers Sharpton a 10% cut for lining up a buyer.
Every kilogram we bring in 3,500 kilos. So that's not. So if we bring in 10, you make $35,000. But that's a chicken pocket.
So he can, if he's going to do it, he'll do it much more.
They can do it, you know, 100 times over. Like the supply of 100 times over.
We tried to play the tape for Reverend Sharpton.
Let me just show you one thing.
No, I'm not interested in seeing it.
Let me play this tape, and then
Absolutely not.
if you don't want to comment on it, you don't comment on it.
No. You tried to play games.
So he ended the interview saying that he would not discuss the subject because he's writing a book about it.
Reverend. Have a good day.
But after several hours, Sharpton reconsidered, and he sat down with us again a few days later.
What kind of time limit we doing with this? Cool. Yeah. I'm going to go probably...
What does that tape show?
A total attempt to set up and criminalize people because some people in law enforcement, for their own reasons, want to see certain people criminalized. People that question people in law enforcement.
But you do begin this conversation by saying, what's the time frame we're dealing with here? And Quintana asks you coke, and you say, yeah. So you initiated that conversation.
Oh, absolutely not. Why would, first of all, he's proposing a deal that never happened, didn't exist. And my thing was, how do I get out of here without being intimidated and try to act like a tough guy myself?
But according to FBI sources, when agents first showed the tape to Sharpton in 1983, he asked them, what do I have to do to stay out of prison? Their answer, become an FBI informant. According to our sources, Sharpton agreed and worked undercover for the FBI for 5 years.
Well, that's a lie.
That never happened.
Absolutely not. They wanted to set up Don King and Al Sharpton. That's all.
Al Sharpton's lawyer sent Real Sports this letter saying that other surveillance tapes exist that exonerate Sharpton, but Real Sports has no tapes or any other evidence to support that claim. But what about Michael Francis? Is the one-time captain in the Colombo crime family telling the truth about Sharpton and about everything else for that matter?
You know, people are going to be listening to this saying, why should we believe him? I mean, how do we know this is true?
Bernie, it happened. That's all I can tell you. That's just the way it happened. I'm not here for any reason other than to tell you that's the way it happened.
Francis says he's no longer in the business of lying, cheating, and stealing. 10 years ago, after his release from prison, Francis made national news when he risked his life by becoming the highest-ranking crime boss ever to walk away from the mob. He moved to the West Coast and says he became a born-again Christian. He's even started a foundation to help troubled kids.
I still miss the old guys, and I miss the old town a little bit, but, you know, it's great. You can't beat it out here.
More than a decade after Michael Francis left the Mafia, years after he got pro athletes to throw games, the Yuppie Don is back in the world of sports. And now he's got a whole new crop of ball players under his control. What ball players? Them.
Come on, let's go, guys. Get into it now. Let's go.
Michael Francis, the one-time captain in the Colombo crime family, is coaching Little League.
You're going. Slide, Max. Down, down, down.
Do you think you're working with kids in baseball because you like baseball or because you really are trying to make up for the past?
You know, I don't know if I could ever make up for the past. And, you know, I did what I did, and I was what I was. I just know that, that what I did was wrong, and that I had to make a change, and I'm doing that. I'm into baseball because I love baseball. I love coaching my son, and I love coaching the other kids. I get a lot out of it.
Way to hit the ball. Way to hit the ball, guys.
And I like being a positive force in their life, and I think that at least as it applies to the baseball field, I've been that to these kids. And, you know, I love them, they love me, and that's just great. I got faith in you. Do it, buddy.
He's such a great guy, and he's like a dad on the team.
Good job, guys. Good job.
we never think about what he did in the past.
That was Mike's past, and it didn't concern me on any level. And I think he's a fundamentally decent person, and I can see that from the way he is with the kids.
Are you looking over your shoulder these days, or is that way in the past?
Way in the past, Bernie. I don't look over my shoulder. I believe I know where I'm going when I leave this earth, and I'm very secure with that. And yeah, if something happens tomorrow, it happens tomorrow. I don't want to leave, but I'm ready to go.
And you know where you're going in the next life?
No question.
Is the fix in?
Fix is in.